All right, Trouble, say good morning. Let us begin. So we are continuing Eretz Hashem this morning in Os Mem Ches in Tzidkas Hatzaddik. So if you remember again, so Tzaddik was teaching us about the incredible power or incredible care that we must exhibit in terms of connecting to what he called Rishoyim. So remember again, as much as we saw in Os Mem Zayin, the need that every midah could be utilized for the good and for the bad. So when it comes, however, to influences, we must be incredibly careful and concerned with the influences and exposures that we allow ourselves. And therefore, said Reb Tzaddik, person has to be careful in terms of if they allow themselves to be connected to a Rasha, to someone who is not living or behaving in the correct way, for that exposure will have an incredible impact on who and what I become. So the Reb Tzaddik now gives examples of this. We're picking up on page Kuf Yud Dalid. We'll learn it together in the Be'urei Chasidus in the left-hand column, bottom of the left-hand column. It's the section that starts Siruvo Shal Yosef, the refusal of Yosef. Right, Reb Tzaddik for Amr Rabbi Seinu Zal. So again, Chazal said, B'Gemara, Gabi Yosef, Hamash shene'emar be'eshes Potifar, v'lo shama eleha lishkov etzla lihiyosima. So remember, we're familiar with the story of wife of Potifar who tried to seduce Yosef, and the Torah says that Yosef would not listen to her. V'lo shama eleha, le'lo shama eleha, he did not listen to her. Lishkov etzla, to sleep, literally to sleep next to her. Lihiyos ima, to be with her. So amazingly enough, so Rashi quotes over here, Hainu lihiyos biyachad ima li olam haba. Or Rashi quotes the Gemara, but the Gemara Maseches Yuma says, what does it mean lihiyos ima? To be with her? To be with her in olam haba. To be with her in olam haba. So the way the Gemara reads the pasuk is, Yosef did not listen to her, to sleep next to her, and to be with her. Now, isn't to sleep next to her, to be with her, isn't that redundant? So therefore the Gemara says, no. Lishkov etzla means sleep with her. Liyosima, to be with her. To be with her where? In Olam Haba, in the world to come. So Reb Tzaddik says something amazing. He says, V'lo muskar sham b'Gemara b'Gehenna. And I will say that very often when we read that Rashi, so we assume that what Rashi really means is like this, that Yosef understands that if he commits this act of immorality with the wife of Potifar, he will sleep with her in this world. Lihiyosima, he will be with her in the world to come. The being with her in the world to come is a reference to being in Gehenna, that ultimately he's going to lose his portion in the world to come. But Hatzaddik says that's not what the Gemara says. That's not what the Gemara says. The Gemara says that he does not want to be with her, or he refuses to be with her in this world and in Olam Haba. Now, Olam Haba, writes Reb Tzaddik, is not a reference to Gehenna. In other words, Olam Haba is a reference to the place that is the opposite of Gehenna. V'hari b'divrei Chazal, hakinui Olam Haba, hu ne'emar rak al kibul schar, she'tzadikim ne'nim miziv hashchina b'Gan Eden. V'lo matzinu b'lashon Chazal, es hakinui Olam Haba al onesh Gehenna. De'in ze nikra olam haba. So Tzaddik raises a fascinating idea. If you read this Gemara in the way that it appears Chazal meant it to be read, is that Yosef did not listen to her, to be with her in this world, to sleep with her, v'lios and to be with her in olam haba. But why would Eshes Potifar be in olam haba? And why would it be, again, that if Yosef sleeps with her, that somehow that's going to land him in Olam Haba as well? Shouldn't it be just the opposite? That if he ends up going ahead and engaging in this act of immorality, ultimately they will both be relegated to Gehenna. So what's the pshat when it seems to interest you? You hear the kasha? It's such a good question, such a profound question. Why does the Gemara indicate that if Yosef sleeps with her, somehow they're going to be in Olam Haba together? So he says something amazing. Shari Olam Mora Al Mitziyah Shlema V'chol Inyan HaGehenim Hu HaEder V'Shlilis HaMetzias. Okay, so we'll say, so again, Reb Tzaddik just keeps on building this up. The term Olam Haba in Chazal is always a reference to what we colloquially call Gan Eden, or the place ultimately, again, where tzaddikim go, where the righteous go, for the afterlife, as opposed to Gehenna, which of course is a reference to the destination of the wicked, to the destination of sinners. So here, Reb Tzaddik is just bothered by the Gemara's use of the word olam haba. So Yosef would not listen to Eshes Potifar, lishko vesla, to sleep with her, v'liyos ima, and to be with her. And again, the Gemara fills in, to be with her where? Olam haba, in the world to come. So once again, what does that mean? Why would sleeping with Eshes Potifar land Yosef and Eshes Potifar in Olam Haba? Page Kuf Tesvav, sorry. Rak, Boss is such a profound idea. Rak, Sheramzu Chazal Bozeh, Shahaya B'maisa Zeh Shel Eshes Potifar, Tzad Mitzvah Mamish. Boss Chazal are alluding to us that there was an element of a mitzvah in this whole episode with the wife of Potifar. Now we'll say, what does that mean? Ad shemagia al zeh schara olam haba, shaharei matzinu shelabasof be'emes, Yosef nasa es bita shel eshes Potifar, ki mefurish b'pasuk, shenasa es asnas, bas Potifera. Let's give you one more line. Umehem biyachad yatsa shevet mishivtei ka b'Yisrael. So we'll say, the Gemara says something, Tzaddik says something absolutely amazing. Rashi points this out already with this concept that the wife of Potifar saw Beruach HaKodesh. She saw in a spirit of prophecy that she was to produce offspring together with Yosef. She was driven, this is fascinating, in the eyes of Chazal, she was driven by some higher purpose, by some higher goal. She saw Beruach HaKodesh that she was supposed to produce offspring with Yosef. Or I should say differently, she saw that her family would produce offspring with Yosef. Now, she assumed that it was her. Now, the truth is, we know it wasn't her, it was her daughter. And I will say, the amazing part is, she wasn't so far off. Why wasn't she so far? So it's true. Yosef marries the daughter of Potiphar, the daughter of Asnas, right? A woman by the the daughter of the wife of Potiphar, a girl by the name of Asnas. And remember, they have two children. They have two sons, Menashe and Ephraim. And Menashe and Ephraim become the Shvatim, right? Remember again, Menashe and Ephraim themselves become the double portion of Yosef. Yosef was the Bechar. He was the firstborn of Rachel Imenu. As the Bechar, he gets Pishnaim, he gets the double portion. His double portion was manifest in the fact that instead there's no Shevet Yosef. Shevet Yosef becomes two tribes of Menashe and Ephraim. That's the double portion. We'll say, where does this come from? This comes from the family of Potiphar. This comes from a union between Yosef and the daughter of Potiphar. So I will say, you see that the wife of Potiphar, again, in the eyes of Chazal, had noble intentions in trying to seduce Yosef. She saw that there was a union. There was a union between Yosef and her family. Her misinterpretation was she thought it was her, instead of ultimately, again, being her daughter. And obviously this was a union blessed by God, as evidenced by the fact that the offspring of this union between Yosef and Asnas Bas Potifera ultimately become part of Shifteka, become part of the Shvatim of Yaakov Avinu, of Klal Yisrael. So he goes on, he says, and it's more than that, by the way. Reb Tzaddik goes on, he says, by the way, V'ad sheba achris hayomim, afilu yetzi mimenu Mashiach ben Yosef, hamechen as ha'olam latikun hashalim. Both said it's actually incredible. Remember, there are two Mashiachs, right? There's Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. When we normally refer to Mashiach, we're normally referring to Mashiach ben David, who is the Mashiach ultimately, who brings Klal Yisrael back to Eretz Yisrael, who rebuilds the Beis Hamikdash. But before Mashiach ben David, there's Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef is the one who leads the armies of good in the war of Gog Magog. He dies in the war of Gog Magog. And it's Mashiach ben Yosef who prepares the world for the arrival of Mashiach ben David. Where does Mashiach ben Yosef come from? He comes from Ephraim and Menashe. Who's the mother of Ephraim and Menashe? Asnas Bas Potifera. So isn't this absolutely amazing? Isn't it absolutely amazing that the mother of Mashiach ben Yosef is an Egyptian woman, right? Ultimately, again, is the daughter of Potiphar, the daughter of the man who purchased Yosef as a servant. This is the mother of Mashiach ben Yosef. So when you put this all together, this is incredible. So he goes on, Yosef Rabas Baklayer Shal Kodesh Shiasaga She'ina Brura Gam Kain Davar Zeh Shemimenu Me'eshes Potifar Mebita Yetzi Zera Sheyamid Shal Shelas Gedola Kazu. So say this is incredible. The wife of Potiphar, by the way, wasn't the only one with blurred vision. Yosef also saw that somehow it was his destiny to go ahead and have children with a woman from this family. He too wasn't sure, is it the wife of Potiphar, or ultimately again, is it someone else? He did not know either. He did not know either. The list goes al yedei schar olam haba. We'll say this is what the words of the Gemara mean. That Yosef wouldn't listen to the wife of Potiphar, the shkovetzla, to sleep next to her, refers to this world. V'lihyosima, and to be with her, as the Gemara says, the olam haba. Because ultimately, again, she was convinced that her intentions were pure. Her intentions were good. She saw what her destiny was in the stars. Yosef would not listen to her. Now, both say, here's what's amazing. What is Hatzaddik trying to say? Yosef himself also saw the same destiny. He too was just not sure which woman from the family of Potiphar was to be the mother of his children. Was it the wife of Potiphar? Was it someone else? But what happens? Yosef makes a conscious decision. Rak Yosef lo ratza, v'lo shama eleha, lo his pasa achareha, games hakavane hi liyosima, afilu li olam haba, afilu olam haba, me'achar she'in lehischaber im rasha, afilu lidvar mitzvah. But Yosef says like this: whether it's supposed to be the wife of Potiphar, not supposed to be the wife of Potiphar, I'm not going to do this. Why am I not going to do this? Because at the end of the day, nothing positive comes about when you join forces with a Rasha. One thing I know, says Yosef, which is the act of adultery is illegal and immoral. The fact that I see that maybe there's something supposed to come from my stars, maybe ultimately there's some type of destiny that is between me and this woman, that's possible. But it's not in this way. It's not in this way. To join forces with the Rasha, even to go ahead and produce what you think are going to be good results, that is not the Ratzon Hashem. That is not what the Ribono Shel Olam wants. And I will say, this is such a profound yisod, because life requires this very delicate dance, because sometimes we do have to join forces with on an individual level, or even sometimes for greater communal causes or national causes. Sometimes you have to dance with the devil, right? Sometimes you do have to join forces with those who have beliefs that are just so alien and contrary to your own. Sometimes it requires that, but more often than not, says Reb Tzaddik, is nothing positive comes from that. Nothing positive comes when you join forces with the Rasha, because whatever you think you're going to accomplish through joining forces is often undone by the very influence that the Rasha exerts over you through that union. Yosef understood this. Eshes Potiphar was doing something unequivocally wrong. The act was wrong. The desired act was wrong. The fact that her kavanos were for something greater, maybe even divinely ordained, Yosef understood whatever good could come out of this will be undone from the fact that I'm joining forces with someone who is doing something really terrible. And the influence that she will exert over me, that influence will undo and undermine any good results which could possibly occur. The power, I will say, of making sure that we surround ourselves with the right influences and not being blind to the impact that the Rishaim in this world can have on us. And even sometimes, though there's a desire to join forces for the most noble of causes, at the end of the day, sometimes no cause is so noble and so important so as to allow my own essence to be undermined by the influence of the Rasha. We'll have to stop here. We'll say we're not finished. We have one more piece in this section of Emirat Hashem tomorrow to contrast the Yosef story with another interesting story, and then Emirat Hashem will round out this hashkafa from Hatzaddik. We'll say.